Good evening, and thank you so much for joining me for this extremely important discussion. But before we get to our conversation, I just have to say that my thoughts and prayers are with those families that have been affected by the gun violence that is plaguing our city. As we continue to deal with an increase in senseless gun violence, I'm committed to do my part in working with other elected officials, the community, and religious leaders to focus on comprehensive solutions that will address the root causes of the crime in our neighborhoods. I know that we can come together to really and truly address these problems, and we have to do it now. As you may know, the federal government passed the American Rescue Plan Act, which provides additional relief to address the effects of COVID-19. The city of Wilmington will receive roughly $55 million in two installments from the federal government to help stimulate recovery and growth. The city has recently received the first installment of the American Rescue Plan funds of approximately $27 million, and we're going to get the remaining funds sometime next year. The mayor and the administration, they're going to be working to determine the best use for these funds. And I firmly believe that the residents of our city, that you should have an opportunity for your voices to be heard on how this funding should be spent. So as the administration begins the planning process for the use of the funds, I will share your feedback directly with them. Now we're going to have a brief presentation on how the funds can and cannot be used.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Walker. I'm Chief of Staff for City Council. As President Congo mentioned, Wilmington is entitled to receive approximately $55 million from the American Rescue Plan Act. This is because we are a city population of greater than 50,000 individuals, and it is expected to come in two waves. We've since this initial presentation, we have received the first installment for approximately $27 million. And ARPA guidance says that we should be receiving the next half of the money 12 months after the first distribution. Next slide, please. The guidance that was issued by the Treasury Department outlined some key areas of allowable use for funds. It's mainly broken up into 4 buckets, and these are high level, but the funds are public on the Treasury website, and also a more detailed presentation is available on City Council's website. But the first is to respond to the public health emergency and its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, and nonprofits, or aid to impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. The second area, to respond to workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 public health emergency by providing premium pay to those workers who are eligible. For the third piece, for the provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to the COVID-19 public health emergency relative to revenues collected in the most recent full fiscal year prior to the emergency. And 4, to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or our broadband infrastructure. Next slide, please. There are some areas where the ARPA funds cannot be used. And those areas are as follows: contributions to rainy day funds, financial reserves, or similar funds. Also, ARPA funds cannot be used to offset new tax cuts, any payment of interest or principal on outstanding debt instruments, fees or issuance costs of new debt, a settlement judgment, consent decree, or judicially confirmed debt. Next slide, please. As I stated earlier, you can learn more about these use of funds by visiting WITN's Channel 22's YouTube for the May 22nd, 2021 Economic Development Meeting. And also, you can contact us here at the City Council office by calling 302-576-2140. Back to you, President Congo.
Okay, so I know that was a really quick overview, but hopefully it did help you have a better understanding of the funds that Wilmington will receive. But please make sure when you get a chance to go back and look at that committee meeting, because there is more in-depth information. I'm now going to open up things for questions. Please type your questions in the comment section on the Facebook Live, and I'm going to try to answer everyone. After today's discussion, if you have any other questions or ideas, please call us at the City Council office at 302-576-2140. Again, our number is 576-2140. We do have a few pre-submitted questions that I'm going to get to first. On the first question, what can the city do to develop programs and facilities to get kids off of the street? And will you be giving grants to existing programs to help with this? As you know, as you hopefully know, youth and education services is something that I take seriously. It might sound like a cliche, but education, I believe, is just a silver bullet. And though it is a cliche, it still holds true. I hear countless stories from residents about the power of a quality education and how it helped to shape them. However, schools alone are not enough. We need a strong and holistic wraparound service program. The city does not have authority over our school system. And we do have authority over the services that we can provide outside of school. I can tell you this, that we need to ramp up these services, but we can't do it alone. We need the support of our state partners. The city of Wilmington is a direct service city, and we're structured that way. So this is really important information. The state of Delaware is expected to have almost a $1 billion surplus, and we need them to invest in our city like our lives depend on it, because they do. The Department of Education alone is receiving hundreds of millions of dollars from the ARPA funds. We will do what we can, and I urge everyone to contact your state rep and ask them to invest in our children's futures. Question 2, have you ever explored the idea of developing community resource centers to provide mental health, drug and alcohol screenings and referrals, arts activities, cooking classes, and financial management information? Great question. I hear these suggestions time and time again, and the simple answer is yes. We are exploring how we can do more. I know these are items that we all care about, so we have to make sure that we are, putting money towards these programs. But we also must support the bodies and the organizations that are already doing this work. The initial Wilmington Education Advisory Committee reported that over 1,000 nonprofits are working across our city. So imagine 1,000 organizations, all purpose to help our city. That's fascinating. The real question is, do we have the coordination? And I believe that one of our roles as city council members is to make sure that we do have coordinated efforts across our area to combat these challenges. We also must think differently about addressing the root cause of these issues. It's a hard conversation, but we must take it on. Question 3, home ownership is a pathway to wealth. Can you consider grants to first-time home buyers that go through housing counseling? What about grants to homeowners that need to make repairs to their homes? Neighborhood revitalization. That is something that I have heard, I'm sure that you have heard the mayor say multiple times. But it's hard to revitalize an area unless we are infusing and creating wealth in that area. I do believe that it's just more than grants for first-time home buyers. It's extremely important. I think we do have to make sure that funding is available, but there are programs out there for that already. We need them to do more, but they do exist. I think that any way that we can supplement them and help them is something that has to be considered. We also need to talk about maintaining our homes after the initial payment as well. This means good paying jobs. This means teaching technical financial management, like the previous question mentioned. And it also means building affordable market rate homes that can be purchased. The good thing about neighborhood development is that it is an allowable use. The real thing to do right now is to chat with your neighborhood planning council, your civic associations, your neighbors, and your city council members about your ideas. This is not something that we can do with just a little bit of money. It's going to take a lot more investment that we are currently able to provide. The administration and the council will work with our counterparts to determine the best next steps. The mayor has committed involving council, and that means involving you. And I know that as he develops his plan, council will be there on your behalf to act as a balance to ensure that our residents benefit. Question 4, can the city consider offering hazard pay bonuses to the many essential workers that have worked through the pandemic? Another great question. Pay for workers who were on the front lines during the pandemic is a matter of much discussion. These individuals risked their lives to keep our city going, while many of us were safe in our homes. So the simple answer is yes, I think it has to be considered. Guidelines have said that we are able to give premium pay to workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 emergency, and they encourage funding to go toward the lower wage workers. This is something that we at council will work with our Department of Labor together on, because I do believe that it is a must that we do so. Question 5, will city council consider policing substations in high crime neighborhoods? I know that it was done many years ago, but maybe there's a way that we can do it again, and to include social services as a component, like mental health, food giveaways, or something that will benefit the immediate community. So this gets to the larger issue of violence in our cities. Just recently, the Treasury Department issued additional guidance to expand the use of these dollars for violence prevention. This year on City Council, we allocated $300,000 in our budget for violence prevention. That's not nearly enough, but this money is a chance to invest serious capital in programming. So as I said earlier, our city is plagued by gun violence, and it's extremely true for any of you who live in our city. You already know this. This past weekend just broke my heart. Every time it seemed like I was constantly just getting updates from the chief of police about another shooting or a homicide. And again, I just want to offer my condolences and prayers to all who have been affected. Our council has said it before, and we have to reimagine policing. We need to rethink about the issues causing the surge in violence. And it's often said that the surge is happening nationwide, but I believe that Wilmington is a city where we're all connected and we're all small enough, and it's small enough so that we can, I believe, make some significant decreases in the violence in our city. I just think that we have to do things differently. We have to make sure that we are coordinating our efforts and making sure that our communities are involved in it. We have to work with the people who are already doing the work. So not long ago, I called and council called on the mayor to use at least $1 million from the ARPA funds for gun violence. I hope he does more, but I believe that $1 million will be a great first step. But we also need our governor to put more money in the pot. I believe that we can turn Delaware and Wilmington around with the right investments that we have coming in. The police substation, I believe it's about smart policing. It's about focusing our attention on the areas that matter. It's about deploying police to actually walk the streets. I believe that sometimes our police department may have an idea of what they believe community policing is, but is that what the community believes? I think that the police department needs to take the suggestions from the community of what they want to see and what they think that community policing is. A lot of times we only see officers walking downtown or on the riverfront, but the communities that are in the inner city neighborhoods also want to see that those same police walking their neighborhood. So it's important that we begin to make that a reality. Before COVID-19, our rates actually they were decreasing. I don't think that we can continue to blame COVID-19. I think that we have to make sure that we are just doing whatever is necessary to put an end to this gun violence. We just have to make sure that we're doing more. Question 6, can you make investments into the infrastructure of the city, to the streets, the sidewalks, the alleyways, and the abandoned houses, and other places besides the riverfront and downtown? The mayor has said this, and we at council are going to hold him to his word that he will come into the inner city areas and invest. I believe that we have to leverage our federal opportunity zones and the areas with small businesses for growth. Redeveloping an area where people live is challenging because we have to be careful not to displace those people who live in that area. So it's something that I think is absolutely necessary. But again, we want to make sure that we're not kicking anybody out of of homes where they have lived the majority of their lives. That's a very fine balancing act, delicate balancing act. They have to make sure that we are redeveloping, but we're not displacing. Extremely important. So I do want to thank those who submitted those questions beforehand. And again, if you have any other questions after this is over, please call us at the City Council office and continue to leave messages and comments in the comment section. Again, our number is 576-2140. Is it known what percentage or dollar amount will be allocated to address any potential revenue gaps? Right now, there's not a specific amount that has been mentioned to council. I do want to make sure that once we talk to the mayor and to the administration, but for that exact amount, that it is shared directly with you. So I will make sure that we are, again, just sharing any information that the mayor and the administration give us on council directly to you. And I do want to applaud the administration because they are going to make this an extremely transparent process as far as the monies that we're going to receive from the federal government. They're going to have separate web pages on the city's website where it will show how much money has been spent, and also where those monies have gone towards. So it's going to be an extremely transparent process. So just please make sure that you are monitoring that, as we will be doing the same on council, so that if we have any questions or concerns, we can immediately bring it to the mayor and to the administration. So I also just want to make sure that the community knows that although I'm having this discussion and council members really want to be really do want to hear from you, that it is at the end of the day the mayor's discretion on how he will use these funds. Of course, he has had conversations with council, and he does want to he wants us to be a part of the process, but council does not solely decide how their monies are going to be invested. That is just by the guidelines. That's up to the mayor and the administration. Another question is, how will the money be used to improve access to housing for the homeless? Really, really great question. I will make sure that, again, I don't want to answer any questions on behalf of the mayor or the administration. So a lot of this is just an opportunity for us and for us on council to get your feedback and get your input so that we can share them with the administration. So I don't have the answer to that. We have not talked about that directly with the mayor, but I will make sure that that is on his on his things to-do list. How will the mayor's administration ensure that public input on the monies are considered and implemented? I think that's what we're trying to do right now. And again, mayor is going to make it an extremely transparent process. Like I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a web page dedicated to these funds where the public will have access to see how the money has been spent, how much money has been spent. And again, I just think that we have to use our voices that. So if those monies are going towards areas that we don't agree with, I'm not saying that council can change the mayor's mind, but I think it's up to us to be your voice, and we do have to, use our authority to make sure that your voices are heard. So again, we really can't we can't tell the mayor what to do, but this is just the first of a series of conversations that we want to have with the community, so that you just know where the money is going, and the mayor and the administration will know where you want your money to go, because at the end of the day, it really is your money. So I just believe that we have to take our lead from you, from the community. Another question that I will submit to the administration. This says, how much money will go to housing overall? As many of you probably know, the mayor is a former developer, and he is really interested in housing and improving the housing in our city. So I don't know that specific answer, but I will make sure that the mayor does also get that question. Will city council have any say in how the funds are spent? That's a tricky one. Ultimately, no. We just want to be honest and frank with you. We do not determine how the monies are spent. We will have conversations on how we think and where the money should be spent. And when we hear from you, the public, we will share that with the administration. But ultimately, under the federal guidelines, council does not determine how those monies are spent. The mayor does. Not saying that he won't listen to council or to the community, who I believe that he will. Again, and if we have those conversations with each other and sharing the information with the mayor, and we don't see where he is paying attention, I just think that we have to increase our voice. It's often said that the politicians and elected officials are, that we have the power, but really the power is with you. So please, use your power and call the mayor's office, call the city council office. Once the building reopens, come down here and schedule appointments with the administration, with the mayor, with your elected officials in your area, with your council rep, so that your voices can be heard. I think it's extremely important that the community is deeply involved in this probably one-time allocation of money. It's $55 million. This probably won't happen again. We just have to make sure that we are using it smartly in the way that the community wants us to. How will these funds be utilized to address and support permanent housing solutions and homeless prevention? And this mentioned, this question was mentioned earlier. So again, I will make sure that the mayor, excuse me, does get this question also. And I hope that I'm not letting anybody down by not being able to directly answer these questions, but I am going to be that vehicle so that these questions will be answered by the mayor. Because again, I as city council president, and we as a council body, we don't ultimately determine, how the funds are going to be spent, but we will work on your behalf. Next question is, what are the public reporting requirements for these funds? Will the mayor and city council provide updates to the community about spending on these funds? Yes, we will. As I mentioned earlier, the administration has pledged to create additional pages on the city's website specifically for these funds. It's going to almost be a running tally of where the money has been spent and how it's been spent, how much money has been spent. So again, I just want to give props where they're due to the administration for making this an extremely transparent process. And will there be more public forums where questions can be asked in real time? Absolutely. I do appreciate everybody who has joined us this evening, and this cannot be the first and last discussion. I believe that as the weeks and the months come, that we have to continue to engage and just follow your lead. I don't believe that the mayor has all the answers. I don't believe the city council has all the answers, but I do believe that you do. And it's important, as I've been mentioning, that we follow your lead. So this will not be the first and only method of the community asking questions and then council forwarding those questions to the administration. I believe that it has to be done regularly so that everybody is on the same page, and we can all kind of decide how we spend these monies best together. Will there be an oversight committee to hold organizations accountable who receive funding? Another great question. I believe that is absolutely necessary. And not only that, but I think that we have to make sure that they are spending the money in the right, in the right areas within their organization. And we have to make sure that the monies that are spent or giving to them, that is providing resolution and solutions to to the intent of the money even being given to them in the first place. So I just think that's almost like a no-brainer, that we have to hold the organizations accountable. We have to make sure that those monies are going in the right places within their organizations, and that there is a system where those organizations are reporting back to the administration and reporting back to council, so that we can know that it was money well spent, and there has been a benefit to us supporting that organization. Next question is, this might be a previous one. I'm not sure. What policies and practices will be used to ensure that, okay, this is a new one, to ensure that displacement does not happen during development in the city? So part of the requirements for these funds is that a portion of these funds must be used on affordable housing. And this is honestly, this is a question that I proposed to the mayor myself. I just want to make sure that no one is displaced when we are revitalizing our city. And he assured me that that no one would be. And I just think that it's up to council and the community to make sure that we hold him to his word, and that no one is displaced. And it's up to the community. And a lot of times those who have been displaced don't always know how to express their concerns. So it's important that we have programs and organizations who have just direct communication when those certain areas are being revitalized, to make sure that those in the area do have a voice. We want to make sure that we're not overlooking anyone. So it's important. I just think it's extremely important that we have direct access, and that they have direct access to council and to the administration. Will any of these funds be used or allocated to projects that were not funded in the budget? For example, Haynes Park was not funded in the budget this year. Another great question. But again, I will make sure that our staff takes these questions, and that we forward them, to the administration, so that I don't want this to be just another conversation where questions go unanswered. So I'm just going to make sure that our staff and that our council, that we do address these questions, and that we do make sure that the mayor and the administration gets them, and that we report back to you. Probably in our next conversation, I will have answers that the mayor has given to council, so that that your voices are being heard. Cameras are needed in high crime areas. Can monies be directed to outfit and monitor high crime areas? I believe that whatever the community wants, because again, this is your money, and there are guidelines, but we have to make sure that these monies are going towards, that we're getting the most the bang for the buck from these monies. So I don't really want to hear, honestly, an answer that we can't do this or we can't do that, and especially when our city is just being destroyed by crime right now. It's being torn apart. And we're on, and I guess a lot of focus is on the shootings, but there are so many other children, so many other neighborhoods who are suffering. So we have to make sure that we are finding a way to make these monies go to where it's needed. The guidelines are so broad that we have to make sure that we're being smart enough to allocate the monies towards cameras, and to monitor the crimes, and towards people to monitor those cameras. It's one thing to have a camera, but if no one is monitoring that camera, it's all for naught. So I do think that we have to make a way. And again, the guidelines are extremely broad. So I just think that we have to make it happen. I don't think that we can tell a community that is just being destroyed by violence that we can't put some of this $55 million towards deterring the crime. So again, I just think that we have to come together as an administration, as a council, and as a community to address the crime. I think that the number one issue for everyone right now is the crime that's plaguing our city. And if we're not able to directly invest this money towards solutions for this crime, I mean, I'm not sure why we're even having this conversation. It's a good thing to revitalize and invest in, in housing, and that's necessary. But we also have to make sure that we're investing and revitalizing the people who live in those houses. And we have to make sure that we figure out a way to do that. We don't want to do anything that's against the guidelines. But again, those guidelines are so broad that we just need to make sure that we're making it happen. This is a one-time opportunity, and we can't miss this opportunity. So I do want to thank everyone who has chimed in so far. We do have some more questions. I'm going to take a really quick break, and we'll be right back to answer those questions. Mhm. All right. So again, I just think that it's really important to hear from you and to make sure that this conversation and that your questions don't fall on deaf ears. So whatever we need to do as a council, whatever I need to do as council president, we're going to do. All of council we are extremely invested in our city, and we all want to make sure that again, that we just get it right. And the administration does also. I do know that sometimes there can be different ideas and different pathways to make Wilmington a model city. But I just think first and foremost, we have to address the violence. I'm not sure how we do it. I think there are short-term and long-term solutions. We have to make sure that these monies are going to sustainable ideas that will provide long-term benefits for our city. We can't keep losing our generations to a mindset that violence is acceptable and that it's okay and that it's just a part of growing up, because I don't think that it has to be. And I think that council, along with the administration, along with you, we can make a difference in our city. Like I was mentioning earlier, we're so small and we're all connected. Everyone knows everyone. So I just think that we have to use those relationships to make this a model city. And I believe that we can. We have to do things that sometimes are against the status quo, and sometimes that are against the system that has, I think, made us to created this problem of violence in our city. So we need to change up the system. We need to change up the system. I think this is the perfect opportunity to do it. We're in a new era, and it can't continue to be business as usual. So I just want to thank you for joining me this evening. And before I wrap up, I just want to share that we do have a survey coming out tomorrow from the City Council office. Please feel free to share any ideas or suggestions. So thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate your engagement this evening. Again, those questions that I did not answer and I could not answer because I can't answer on behalf of the administration, we at council will forward those questions to the mayor so that he answer them, and then we as a council will get your answers back to you during our next conversation. Just want everyone to have a great night and continue to just engage and be neighborly and be friendly, and don't let this violence take you to the point where you're not enjoying your neighborhoods and your friends and your family. And reach out and help some of these children also. A lot of times these children just don't have a place to grow and to learn. And maybe you can be that place. We can't continue to blame their families. because a lot of times their families are just grown up versions of the child who just is lost, and they just don't know how to navigate their way through life. And I think it's up to us as a community to make sure that we're helping them to do that. Money aside, I just think that your time and your effort and your prayers and your love can do a lot more than the $55 million that we just tried to that we just discussed. So just please make sure that you are engaging not only with council, but with your families and with your communities. So again, thank you for all of your participation. Hope you all have a great night.